A good morning to you, YouTube. Well, it's morning for me at the time of recording this video. I decided to get back to a level 80 wizard build. Warcrime wizard, utility wizard, however you want to refer to it. And I'll be a little frank with you, making this build was mildly agonizing for me. I just like having so many weapon options. Even though I used mostly the Lordsworn straight sword most of the time, some severe neurosis dictated that I have access to the Claymore, Anspur Rapier, other higher stat weapons that you might have on a level 80 wizard. It didn't even matter that I didn't need the Anspur Rapier, and I really only needed to poison one guy while recording. Though I will admit having the strength and dex required to use the butchering knife as a waves of darkness stick was a very nice fallback. However, with some planning, you can use the Zamor Ice Storm to fill a similar function to Waves of Darkness. So if you plan your spells right and even have an Endure tool ready, you can get an awful lot of utility that you normally gain from having an armor in your pocket from sorceries. Part of me wants to use a larval tier to respec and move my points out of strength and dex into more useful places for a wizard, like mind, intelligence, maybe even just a little bit of extra endurance. I will say there's a caveat to this line of thinking though. Having access to weapons meant that if I ever ran out of FP, I still had access to high stagger weapons or poking weapons for chase down, so it's the taster's choice for that one. A level 80 is a grand bracket in my mind, because a single straight sword can still get the job done. It feels like at meta levels everyone either has larger weapons, or they have larger weapons with hyper armor, or they just have regular heavy armor. And so the straight sword feels a little less effective and a little harder to use. It's not impossible by any means. Everyone just usually decides to use two straight swords instead. Another added benefit, or perhaps trade-off, should I lower the strength and dex on this build to use smaller weapons, would be I would free up a talisman slot. I wouldn't need to use Millicent Prosthesis, and as a consequence I could use, I don't know, the Graven Mass Talisman plus the Godfrey icon, or maybe use the Shard of Alexander plus the Godfrey icon and be able to get those charged abilities and spells to hit even harder. So that was one thing I knew I was missing out on. I like poise a little too much, so I kind of have to run bull goats on just about everything. I think you want more than 44 poise? It might be 41 poise if you're going into invasions. I'm going to say, I want to say 44, but I don't rightly remember. I'm sure I could pull it up and remind us. Okay, so you want more than 41 poise as a bare minimum. And then if you can break 53, great. 68, 69 poise is kind of the next point you want to get to. And then I think it's 102 is the final break point for a lot of stuff. And there's, of course, other breakpoints in between, but those seem to be the major milestone ones. And so I was only able to hit 63 on this build, 63 poise. And I was kind of impressed I was able to hit 63 poise with like 12 endurance, I think. That's pretty good. That's a good amount, and I feel like with just a couple more points in endurance, I could hit the 69-ish poise breakpoint, which would be wonderful for invasions. Every time I play a lightweight build like this, a lighter weight build I should say, I'm reminded of how bad it is to have low poise, and how things can just bully you relentlessly, smaller weapons that you're used to just powering through on occasion. And usually doesn't apply to those first hits, of course, but if you ever get tagged by somebody who's spamming attacks, like you dodge the first hit in a string, and then you want to tank through the second to trade, that's usually where that would come in handy. But that is enough for the theory crafting of the build and the what-if section of the video. Let's continue with the actual video itself, and I must say I love the Carrion Sword sorceries, and a Ash of War I got more utility out of than I thought I was going to was Sword Dance. And I was showing a little bit of my footage to my brother because it's just fun to get little input snippets while I'm, you know, putting the video together in general. And he remarked that Sword Dance on small weapons is faster, and he didn't know that. And to be fair, I didn't know that for a long time too. I had always stuck Sword Dance when the game first came out on like a curved greatsword or a scythe. and they have a slower version of sword dance. But if you put it on a straight sword, a curved sword, one of the smaller weapons, sword dance comes out pretty darn quick, and it has a surprising amount of stagger. I need to give context to this clip. I am buffing up because I know that there is a host up the ladder just waiting to ambush me. So I apply the crab, I apply the bubble, I apply a starlight shard to kind of just boost my defenses and make myself topped off. And I know I'm going to eat damage. I am so glad he wasn't using like a great bow to ambush me on the ladder. There just would have been too many hits. He would have won. So his ambush was a very foolish and vain attempt, thankfully. We get the plunging hit, and we're able to just ruin his whole ambush. He panics and rolls into a corner, and I am holding him there. We plink off the wall, finishing him off, and I couldn't help it. I felt terribly smug. I gave him a twirl. I felt like a twirl was a nicer way to say what you did was cute. Not really a full, you know, screw you guy, but rather a just little haha, I see what you were trying to do. But at the end of the day, it's just a video game. He's allowed to do that, and it is a memorable moment. He has been thoroughly reduced to content, so we don't need to feel sour about it in the least bit. And we won, for that matter. And I must say, in the level 80 bracket, you get to visit so many varied places, it feels like. At meta level, it feels like you're stuck in the same 3 maps on a rotation sometimes. And of course there are exceptions, but the exceptions are few and far between. Meanwhile, at level 80, I had people in Liurnia, I had people in Caelid, I had people in Fair Missoula, and the Brace of the Howling Tree, and Consecrated Snowfield. Just this, it felt like a far wider map. I think I even had people in the Weeping Peninsula, so level 80 is a neat little bracket. In fact, no, Gal, I said I wouldn't talk about the what-ifs of the build, but I thought of a new one, so you'll have to bear with me. I thought about bringing the build up to level 90, having plus 20 standard weapons, because I felt like with an extra 9 levels, I could have the endurance and the mind I wanted to make it the ideal build for me. And I didn't do it because I didn't want to be pushed into a higher bracket, I suppose. I feel like level 90 people, when they're invading, they deal with people who are approaching 125 and at 125. I don't know the actual math, I could be wrong on that one. But you're getting people just shy of maxed equipment, and, you know, the damage output can be very scary. And the whole point in playing in a lower level bracket is to lower the lethality. It makes it feel a little more like Dark Souls 3, everyone's not nearly so sweaty, you can try neat and interesting things. I can try to wrestle with the internet in this particular invasion. Look at that internet moment. Mostly the host. Keep an eye on the host, and then there will be another phantom who shows up, and watch their internet moments. Maybe it's just me, but it felt like some of their hits were weirdly delayed. Like, his hit didn't feel like his jumping attack with his colossal sword felt like it didn't hit at the right time. And then there's that one where it hits me before the sword comes down. And then the host is just ominously floating at me. You see that little blood splatter that came off my character? I think that was a hit from him that I rolled, but it didn't show the animation at all. So that's why I'm, like, rolling periodically. Because I'm like, oh wow, the connection, like the ping, the latency wasn't too high, if I recall. It was like 140, 150, but his stability with his connections. The latency was okay, but the strength, or the strength of the connection itself was pretty bad. I have a third-party program that lets me see people's ping thanks to the Steam console. And it also tells me their connection quality. And I've just been recently made aware that there are plenty of people who are still actively playing Elden Ring who play on devices like a Steam Deck. And if you are aware of the Steam Deck doesn't inherently have an Ethernet port. So most people who are playing it are going to be playing off Wi-Fi. They are not going to be hardwired connected. But of course, because it is a veritable PC, they are playing with the PC user base. Here I am, pulling out the Moon Veil, which is a nice in-pocket surprise for people who aren't dodging a whole lot but are very aggressive, high latency, and, well, consequently, low health pool. Don't worry, I don't abuse the Moon Veil more than that, but it was nice to have it in a pinch. And there's something about swapping to a Moon Veil to hit somebody and then moving away from it that feels far better than just L2, L2, L2 all the time with the Moon Veil. Gets tired, gets repetitive. Any half-decent player is going to see it coming from a mile away. It's got a little bit of a startup. And so I'm in this 3v1. It didn't really perform like a 3v1, more like 3 sequential duels with this invasion. And I see this guy's guarding, and I'm trying to kick his shield down, and I had a little bit of tunnel vision for some reason. I was just like, I want to kick his shield, because I don't know why. I figured because if he was using a shield and he was going to buff his shield, he was going to be overly relying on the shield. So I'm kicking way too much. I'm getting in tiny little hits. I'm like, fine, you know what? We're going to straight sword it. If we happen to break his guard, we happen to break his guard. Or if he guards more, we'll then punish it. And this guy loved to R1 spam in my face, and it worked. It did good damage. There's nothing wrong with that if it works. But we're able to break his guard. Thank goodness we switched to the dagger talisman, and then his friends creep closer. The 1v1 turns into a second 1v1. And so we're able to slowly pick away at this fight. And I ate too many resources in that first fight. That's on me. In fact, I think I'm out of healing at this moment exactly. Well, unless I wanted to eat the rotten meats, but those take a moment and you have to cure the poison, so it comes at a cost. And I'm so upset that my Gavel of Haima hit him with the first part, not the second that the animation was cancelled, but such is the power of colossal weapons and being able to just attack in people's faces. And I wonder how often it worked for him. But it encouraged me to be smarter with my spacing because I was out of resources. And to, you know, slowly pick off these dudes one at a time. It kind of shows off what the build is capable of. I say this coalesces the essence of the build, and I'm upset I didn't have my Graven Mass Talisman on, because that little pew would have finished him off. But that's okay. I really liked this clip. That's kind of why I made it the center of the video, more or less. Because you're able to see what you can do with just a little spacing and a little wise swordplay. Heck, Adula's Moonblade, if you hit people with it twice, you'll more than likely hit him with the frost damage. And it's enough to finish him off, and we take the win. And I rather enjoyed that series of fights. That was good of them. That was terribly, terribly kind of them. To fight me one at a time, sequentially? My goodness, what nice lads. They were there for a good time. They weren't there to just win, and I appreciate that in them. It was very good of them. It feels like an honor among thieves situation where we're all here to do dirty to one another. Not necessarily, but it feels like that from time to time. And so seeing people who are nice and courteous to each other, it just puts a little smile on my face, nothing more. I appreciate those individuals. And so here we are in a 2v2 thanks to a Taunter's Tongue. So before you go, oh, we're picking on this guy, he had a buddy. But the buddy, I hit him with the Gavel of Haima earlier through the stockade there, and then I think the Omen might have finished him off. Something finished off the Phantom. And so we were able to take on that guy, and he was doing several fights in this little courtyard. So he was asking for it, quite literally, he was inviting people. And I'm not saying that he's asking for it as in he deserved his fate, but he was quite literally inviting people to fight, so don't mourn his loss. I'm sure he had many wins and many fun times. But hey, we get a fight here in the CO for a Riverwell, something that you don't really get in meta level unless people are looking to gank squad. And so we're fighting two people. They're a little bit of twinks, I suppose, with their equipment. Maybe not so much. Maybe they did do Kaled. I don't know. Maybe they have done Kaled and Radon and they have that equipment legitimately. But they're just questing through the level. They're allowed to. And you have these neat little fights. Like, how often do you get a bridge fight like this where there's no guardrail? I like that concept. I like the little bit of danger, how we're kind of in a hallway, but it's an open hallway where you could get either party killed off of the ledge. It's a neat set piece. I really like the maps and the design, even though some people argue that the maps feel empty. For these fights that could go quite literally any direction when you're running around in these open worlds. It's crazy to me, just the amount of set pieces you have. Simple ones that are still thoroughly satisfying. But I want you to watch this poor guy, because I didn't realize I'd backed him up, but I had backed him up to where I can get sniper support. And then I'm able to hit him a few more times with my spell, switch to the Glintstone Chris, and tap tap, he's gone. Oh my goodness. Sure, I had earned the kill on the Phantom, but I definitely had sniper support for the host in that one. Here we are, we have that courtyard fellow again, and I'm using the butchering knife as a Waves of Darkness tool because I need it to come out fast. Because I noticed that this guy was very deadly with his claws. He's able to get that running heavy into heavy, I think, as a combo on lighter poise amounts. and we buy the other guy just enough time that he's able to take down the Phantom, and again, that dynamic switches. I rewatched my Delicious Criticals video recently, just because, you know, I kind of like to look over my old videos time and again to kind of spot what I've done wrong in an attempt to improve. And the whole point of that video was a single step forward can change the whole dynamic of a fight. So take this fight. I spawn in, I have iframes, I'm able to double tap him with the Carrion Greatsword and Carrion Piercer roll catch, and oh, it's so tasty when it lands. And so I'm chasing this guy, and a core mechanic of Elden Ring and Souls games is you narrowly escape and you heal time and again. That's just kind of the flow of the game. And so anytime you're able to get a full string of damage on somebody, even with them running and rolling, and kill them before they can heal, is incredibly satisfying. You have denied them their 5 or so health flasks that they may have. And that in turn saves you a whole lot of resources, because sometimes you win a fight just barely, over and over, right? You lower their health, they heal. You lower their health, they heal. They lower your health, you heal. Back and forth, and usually the host gets to win because he has more flasks, and usually more dudes. So anytime you can win without that. Oh, that was a clean invasion. I like that one especially. My goodness. Oh, this one. Night Maiden's Mist is a wonderful war crime. I know I titled the video, What's Your Favorite War Crime, and I haven't talked about it, but what's your favorite war crime? Tell me all about it. I want to hear it. What's your little smarmy thing that you like to have in your back pocket? Night Maiden's Mist is one. Spear Call Ritual is another, in my opinion. It feels like I'm just laying down a bombardment on an area, and it's very quick, and you can chain it together, and it does good damage, and it just spooks people outright. So tell me about your favorite war crime. Oh man, finally get to the subject of the video or the title. That just kind of happens. I don't script these videos terribly well. I could script these videos better. I've done scripting before. I've done story writing. I've done writing for novels. Nothing published, but, you know, just for funsies, just to learn how stories and narratives fit together to be satisfying for an audience. And I tend to just have a loose group of bullet points, and I just kind of let it fly because I do this for fun. And so that's just how it goes. Very raw, very organic. Maybe I'll get better. Maybe I'll be smarter in the future. This fellow was very aggressive, and this tree was kind of my lifeline because that guy was playing with the great bow, and he was able to bully me with it, and I've been that bully before. But there's something very cool in my mind about breaking somebody's guard with a Carrion Greatsword and then just hitting them with another Carrion Greatsword, because turns out you have enough time for that. You don't really have enough time to reset and get a crit with a knife, but you do have enough time to hit them with another Carrion Greatsword, so that's neat that I have that option. And here we go into the heavy, into sword dance, into the follow-up heavy, or the follow-up sword dance, I should probably say. Oh my goodness, love that. And now for my favorite clip. Okay, maybe it's not my favorite, but I thought this was a nice crowning jewel to end the video on. It felt very slick. So I'm here, I'm fighting this guy, and turns out there is another invader up on the hill firing with the jar cannon. He's providing fire support, dangerous fire support, because he can hit me, unlike those ancestor followers firing their sniper bows earlier. This guy can hit me if he's not careful. But these guys are Taunters tongued. They want a 2v2. They're here for it. So power to them. And so I have this little skirmish where I'm having a little bit of supportive fire, which is really nice, actually. It means they don't just bear down on you and overwhelm you instantly, because they could risk getting hit by the jar cannon. So I'm able to, you know, pop the attrition Starlight Shard, and there we go. We get the rollback stab, and it's just another step in just changing the dynamic of the fight utterly and completely. We're able to finish off that guy, and now I'm going to show you the R2 into R2 Raptor Talons combo. And sometimes you can roll catch with an even third R2 in that string of attacks. And that's where we'll close out the video. Thank you for joining me today. It's been grand to have you on this wonderful, beautiful Monday morning, and I hope you enjoy the holidays that are coming up. You earned it. And don't you dare to forget to tell me about your favorite war crimes in the comments below. And you have a good one. Bye-bye now.